Good day. It's Friday morning and it's our weekly Talk to a Farmer, Talk to a Rancher, Talk to an Extension Specialist, since that's the series that we are on, event. And welcome to those that are joining us live. Randy Norton is going to be my guest and I already can see him, so I'm going to bring him into the live. We'll be split screen. Give me just a few minutes. But we have been doing this series for probably the last 2.5, 3 months with our extension agents because I certainly wanted to discover extension with the University of Arizona. And for those that are maybe new to the word extension or what it means, it's the link between the university and in my case, because I'm a retired farmer with my parents, it's that applied science. So we have this smooth transition in all of the research that's done at the university levels. It's a pretty impressive process, and I've learned so much about extension. Well, today my guest is Randy Norton, someone I've known for quite some time, especially because one of his specialties is cotton, and I've got a question that's going to relate to that. But Randy, I'm going to give you welcome, by the way, and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And I'm going to give a real quick introduction on you. So our viewers that are joining us live, we have several that are on already. Randy Norton, PhD, serves as the director of Graham County. Realize that this series is going to the different county extensions. He's the director of Graham County Cooperative Extension at the University of Arizona, as well as the interim regional director and director of the Safford Agricultural Center. He is an associate professor and regional extension specialist in agronomy. And as I understand it from your bio, Randy, you got your undergraduate degree in plant science, you got your master's in soil science, and your PhD in soil chemistry and soil fertility. So when it comes to soil and agronomy and plants, my expectation is that you know a lot.
Well, you would think, right? You would think with all that training and experience. Well, and I hope I know a lot, but I learn a lot every day too. We're always learning.
And one of the things, just to reemphasize, as we do this series on discovering extension connected to the land grant University of Arizona, you're connected with the farmers a lot because you're, yes, again, taking that science and then you're helping the farmers and ranchers apply this. So I've been interviewing quite a few individuals, very talented individuals from the extension. You're actually, I think, my first quote unquote, I'm going to call you a farmer, but more of the farmer connection in extension. Sure. And I'm pretty excited about that. And I also want to highlight for those that have joined us live, and thank you everyone that's joined us live, that in 2013 you were named Extension Cotton Specialist of the Year. Yes. By peers across the Cotton Belt, not just Arizona, which I think is kind of cool. So I might launch into this kind of added question I had for you. You have actually been dubbed the Cotton Doctor. So what's the backstory behind that, Randy?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure where that moniker came from, but I have. So I spent a lot of time at the University of Arizona. I worked there while I was working on my degrees, and I worked with Dr. Jeff Silvertooth, who was my mentor.
Awesome.
He was my major advisor professor that I worked with for over 10 years. And as you know, Jeff, he's an excellent scientist. He knows a lot about cotton, and he was our extension cotton specialist for many years in the state of Arizona. So I kind of cut my teeth working with Jeff and did a lot of my research in his program, and learned a lot about extension. All of that came from him, and he kind of trained me and helped me understand what extension was as I was coming up through the ranks, and as I was going through school and doing my research that was part of my PhD and my master's program. So about that time when I finished up, Jeff kind of took a different role and went into administration, became the department head, and then became director of extension for many years. He's no longer doing those things. He's still employed at the university, still working, has a research program and works with growers. But during that interim, I kind of took over some of those roles and responsibilities as the extension cotton specialist and started working with colleagues from across the country. Did a lot of that work. And so that name has just kind of uh, just kind of happened as the cotton doc. And I spend a lot of time researching cotton. I have a passion about cotton. I love the crop. It's a very interesting crop in terms of its production and how it grows here in the state of Arizona. And Julie, as well as anybody, we grow some of the best cotton and some of the highest yields of anywhere in the U.S., and really anywhere in the world, to be quite honest with you. And we have a unique industry here in Arizona because of our climate, because of our growers and the technology they embrace. We produce a lot of cotton seed, the planting seed for the rest of the country, right here in Arizona, and so it's a unique industry to be in. We've seen a shift in acreage for sure, from back in the '80s when we were at 500,000 acres, down to around 100,000 acres. So it's a much smaller industry than it used to be, but it's a pretty tight knit group. Of growers, of industry that support cotton. The Arizona Cotton Growers Association, we work closely with them. They're a great support. The Arizona Cotton Research and Protection Council, we all work together on trying to help the growers remain profitable in cotton production here in Arizona. So it's a great industry to be involved in.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a farmer or farmers that dubbed you the cotton doc. And you have been planted in probably one of the best places as Graham County Extension Director, because there's so much cotton being grown in Graham County. I've been texting back and forth with J.R. Howard. He's
Yeah.
just a great guy to visit with, and he's good at taking video clips and photos. So I asked him for
Yes.
some because I wanted to kind of show some of the Graham County harvest. And though that's kind of winding down, or who knows, maybe they're still in the thick of it.
Yeah, it's pretty much done. There might be a
That's what I
few
thought.
fields here and there, but it's pretty much done. Yeah,
Yeah.
for this year.
And he's always given me his opinion on the season and the
Yep.
cotton crop. And
JR's
it's,
a great farmer. He's a great farmer.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
very passionate about it, just like you're
Yes.
passionate for the cotton plant, which prompts me to ask another question. Why are you so passionate about cotton? Is it just because it's an intriguing plant? It's kind of a complex plant
It
to
is.
grow too.
Yeah, really. I mean, if you compare it to other row crops like corn, like soybeans, cotton by its nature is a perennial plant, right? So if you allow it to grow, it would continue growing. It might die off in the winter, but it would come back in the spring. So
Oh.
its growth habits, it's not like corn where you plant it, it goes through its life cycle, produces an ear of corn, and it's done. Cotton will respond to the environment a lot more dynamically than other crops will, other field crops will. It will kick off fruit, abort fruit based on environmental conditions, and it will set fruit, it will back fruit, it will do a lot of unique things that other crops don't. So managing that crop is more complex. It's just a more complex system that we deal with. So it provides opportunities to continuously learn, right? When we think we've got it figured out, Mother Nature teaches us that we just think we're driving the bus, so to speak, right? So it's an interesting crop that I've spent close to 30 years studying, and it's one that I plan to continue working in. But I do work in other crops. I do, as part of my role as an extension specialist, a regional specialist in extension. I do work with corn. I do work with other forages, but I would say probably 90+% of what I do is related to cotton across southern Arizona.
That's so fascinating. And I'm glad that we have you seeded slash planted where you're planted, because we need agronomists and specialists, University of Arizona extension specialists like you for our farmers. So your cotton doc moniker is well earned. Now, the next question I'm about to ask, I've been asking all of the extension agents. There's a mission statement, a vision statement, absolutely, for extension, its engagement in the community. It has so many programs,
Yep.
not just for the farmers, 4-H. I mean, that's probably anybody and everybody's
Yeah.
initial, especially in their youth, to extension. The 4-H program is amazing. And then, some of the other things that are available to people, whether I am a farmer or whether I just live in that particular community slash county. I met a young woman recently. She goes, I want to be a farmer. And she has no farming connection whatsoever. I said, well, there's two things you need to do. You need to connect with extension. She lives in Maricopa County, so I said,
Yep.
connect with Maricopa County Extension. First, I would take the Master Gardener course because then she'll
Good idea.
understand soils, she'll understand
Yeah.
plants, all that stuff. And I said, second, Maricopa County is featuring, it's an extended program. I think it's a series of 14 to 15 workshops
Yes.
for the beginner farmer, just because Maricopa County is so urbanized. And she says, I'm all over it. That's what I'm going to do, because sometimes people that have a passion for agriculture or farming and ranching, they have no like production connection to it
Yes.
necessarily, but they still have a passion for it. So she's very enthusiastic about it. But my question, that was a long process getting to the question, was, in your own words, why is extension so valuable besides what is obvious?
Sure. Well, I think you've hit on a lot of those points, right? I mean, if you look at how extension began with, back the land grant university system, right? Back in the late 1800s,
Mm-hmm.
it was set up 1914 with the Smith-Lever Act that developed extension offices in every county, in every state, that was connected to the land grant university. And quite frankly, I think it's a unique and very well thought out system, because it allows you to have the resources that you have on campus, right? But you also have resources, local resources that have expertise in that area, in that specific geographic area, but then also have access to the resources that we have on campus. And so we have specialists on campus, we have specialists located in some counties, we have specialists located at ag experiment stations, and they all have statewide responsibilities. So they're not only doing things in Maricopa County or in Pinal County or Cochise County. Those resources can be leveraged anywhere in the state, and so it provides a link between what's going on at the university and bringing that to the people in the counties across the state. So I think it's a wonderful program that brings that university to the people. And that was the whole idea in establishing cooperative extension and the land grant system, right?
Right, right. To me, so much of it circles around community.
Yes.
When and that the fact that these extension services are in every county, you're going to get connected with the
Yeah.
local community, unless you don't like people, and then you shouldn't be working for
Yeah,
extension.
exactly. And
So,
what's interesting too, and it's not the case in every county, but I will say it is the case in Graham County. All of the faculty that we have here in Graham County actually are natives from this part of the world. I mean, they
oh,
grew up in Southeast Arizona. They're not necessarily transplants. And that's not the case in every county, but it is unique here in Graham County where we all grew up in this part of the world. And so we have family ties. We're involved in the community, not just through our work, but involved through church, through other things that we have that we're involved in the community with. And so it is a unique situation here with the faculty we have in Graham County.
now, are you from Graham County? Is that your?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, fun. All right.
Yeah. In
Now, does
fact,
your?
I'm the fifth. I think I'd be about the fifth generation. So my ancestors settled in this part of the world in the late 1800s,
Oh,
early
awesome.
1900s. So yeah, yeah.
So this is home. You're in your. Uh, this is the hood for you, Graham
It
County.
is. Yeah, and
I
I've
love it.
had offers and opportunities to go to different places, and but it comes back to to a large extent my roots and my family and where I want to be. So it's a great place to live. The
Oh,
Southeast Arizona is a great place to live.
yeah, I love Graham County, and I always, when we go out there to hang out with farmers and the ranchers, especially as it's tied into Farm Bureau, I just thoroughly love it.
Yeah,
So, talk about your personal experiences working for Extension, whether that's just an overview
sure.
or there's a personal experience you're willing to share, whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of things that have happened over the past 25, 30 years, of experiences, but I guess I would kind of boil it down to kind of what we've talked about a little bit already, is just the interactions that we have with the people, the growers. Part of my research and extension I do on experiment station, small plot work that we do that's kind of that's kind of high risk that we really can't do on grower fields. So we do it on experiment stations where we can do that higher risk type research. So I do a lot of stuff on experiment stations, but I also do a lot of stuff with growers. So we had this year we had probably over 25 different projects scattered across Arizona on grower farms, and to me that's what I love doing. I love getting out. I love working with the growers, learning from them, hopefully imparting to them some knowledge as well. But that's really the love that I have for extension, is the ability to work with the growers and the industry, right? And not just the growers, but the cotton industry here in Arizona, again, as a small kind of tight knit group that we work together on things. All of the seed company representatives, the chemical company representatives that the local retailers, the Fertizonas, all of them we work with, and it's those relationships really that make the job enjoyable and fun. Uh, but if I think about specific experiences, I guess one that I would kind of bring to mind, or that comes to mind, is whenever we're doing research on a grower's field and we learn something or we figure something out and we see those growers implement those practices and we see it help their profitability, it helps their efficiency. Those are the satisfaction moments, right? Those are the things
Yeah,
where you say, yeah, we did something. We did something worthwhile. We did something that's going to help these growers remain competitive and remain in business. Um,
excellent.
yeah.
Well, by the way, we have about 6 live people on this Talk to a Farmer, Talk to a Rancher, Talk to an Extension Agent show, and Ashley Norton just came on. Is that a daughter or wife or?
That's daughter-in-law. Actually, I think
Okay.
probably just about everyone on there might be related to me in some way or another right now.
Well,
Word got
welcome,
out
Ash.
to my family.
Yeah, shout out to the family.
Yeah.
And welcome, Ashley. Randy, as always, who I've always admired because of his expertise and experience in what he's doing, is doing a good job on the interview. And she just waved to us. So, um, and one other thing I've been highlighting is sometimes, while across the board in the different county extension cooperatives, the programs, a lot of the same programs exist, and I wouldn't be surprised if certain core programs are required in each one of the county extensions. But I've also noticed there's kind of these core competencies, or it's a really strong program due to the geographic area or the biggest need. Can we say that Graham County has like a core competency or a program that's really front and center, emphasized, even if that's fair to say? And if so, what is that?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, you're correct in your kind of assessment of the extension in all of the counties. Yeah, there are certain programs that really kind of happen in every county. So we have ag and natural resources, right? Which is field crops, livestock. I work in field crops. We have Nate Brawley, who works with our livestock producers, who is actually now our Graham County Farm Bureau president,
Oh,
which,
that's
yeah.
okay.
So he's recently become the Graham County Farm Bureau president. So, and Nate Brawley does the livestock. We've got the 4-H program, 4-H youth development, which is very similar to other parts of the state. Lori Knight is our faculty member over 4-H, and then we have family and consumer health sciences, and Cindy Pearson is over that program. So we have those programs that are in the county, but there are things that are different, right, in our county because of the needs that we have. And so we're kind of unique in that we have both an extension office and we have an ag experiment station here in the county. So we have the Safford Ag Center that is very similar to Maricopa Ag Center, but on a smaller scale, right? So it's only about a 65 acre farm where I conduct a lot of research on that farm. But we've also expanded that to do with partnerships with cooperative extension. So there's a couple of things that I'd like to highlight that we have there at the Safford Ag Center that are recent developments. The first one is a livestock handling facility. where we have corrals, we have a chute, we have squeezes, we have a tub to handle livestock. In fact, we were just over there this morning. They're pouring concrete for some new wash bays. That is a livestock handling facility that we use for demonstration and research. So Nate uses that as part of his livestock program. They can do demonstrations there. 4-H uses it a lot. The kids will come out, they'll weigh their animals, and as they prepare them to go to the fair to show those animals, they'll do trainings there at the Ag Center where they can, get their animals out and learn to work with them, get their weights, do washings, you prepare the animals for the shows and things like that. So that's a new facility that we got a grant through United Way that built that facility there at the Safford Ag Center. And that's been a great asset to the community that they can come in. Ranchers can come in and do things. If they need to work their animals, they can come there and do that. And Nate's been fostering that with his clientele, with the ranchers and producers here in Southeast Arizona. So we continue to see that grow, and it's elevated the visibility of cooperative extension as we bring more people out there to see the facilities that we have. The other one that I wanted to highlight is our gardening program. And this one is being done by Cindy Pearson, who's our FCHS agent that works in family and consumer health sciences. And this is a hands-on garden plot where right now I think they've got 18 plots out there now. They have 12 of them are currently being used, but it's part of a community program where community members can take classes, they learn about gardening, and they come out and they basically adopt a plot, so to speak. And so they have an area where they can go out and they can grow whatever they want. They can only have it for 2 years. It's not something they can do, forever. The idea is to bring another group in and allow them to do it, and hopefully have those individuals that spend 2 years there gardening to go out and teach their neighbors or invite their neighbors to come and participate in the program too. That was also part of some funding, some federal funding that was put together with. And then just recently, we received an additional grant from Freeport-McMoran to expand that and to add some fencing around it to keep the varmints out, so that they could be successful in growing their garden and not have the rabbits and whatever else come out there and eat it. So that's another program that's helping individuals, families. We've got a lot of families that come out there and garden hands-on, and allows them to learn how to produce their food and garden and learn how to grow food. So, and that's part of that whole process. Cindy has a tremendous program where she's doing canning demonstrations, food preservation demonstrations.
Excellent.
So the idea is to try to learn how to grow your food and then learn how to preserve it, right? And use it in your home. So those are kind of some programs that I think are fairly unique to Graham County, that our faculty and staff here in the county are doing a great job developing.
And you said how many families are participating in the community garden?
So right now, I think we've got 24 individuals.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but we have the capacity to take, I think, and I'm trying to remember the numbers off the top of my head, but I think there's going to be a total of 18 plots, and right now only half of them are filled.
Okay.
So we'll start a new class in January of next month, and we'll be inviting people to come and participate in that class. They take the class. Richard Clough is a local, also with roots in this valley. He's a great gardener. He knows, and he's a great instructor, which is important. You can be a good gardener, but if you can't teach the concepts, he's both. He's both a good gardener and a very good instructor. So he's teaching the classes. They come and they participate and they adopt a plot, and then they can grow their own garden.
I love that, and that's good for me to know because I may use that in some of the stuff in the content.
Yeah.
We just published on our fillyourplate.org blog about how to do local, and one of the sections was, if you want to make sure you're going to grow local, then plant your own garden. Yeah. And I'll make a point to mention Graham County Extension's efforts in this area, and with 24 individuals already doing it and the ability to expand, the sky's the limit for you guys. And the other thing that I think is key in what you were talking about is that it's a 2-year time period for each family, so to speak, or individual
Yep.
that's utilizing the community garden, because I'm imagining you're wanting them to go back home and also start their own garden in their own backyard, or if they have a little bit
Exactly.
of
Yeah.
so cool. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully the idea is they go back home and they do it like you say. They
Yeah.
do it themselves at home, and
Yeah.
then they can help and teach others. So that kind of multiplying effect, hopefully, is what
Yes.
we're shooting for. Yeah.
I think it'll work. Once people get a green thumb and they really know how
Yeah.
to garden, they don't like to give it up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what inspired you about what you do? I mean, you alluded to it, but I want to hear a little bit more about what inspires Randy Norton to go into work every day and hang out with farmers and make a
Yeah.
difference
Yeah.
in our futures.
Well, so as I mentioned before, I grew up here in Southeast Arizona. My dad had a small farm, 300-acre farm. He also worked for the government back then. Back then, it was Agricultural Stabilization and Conservation Service, ASCS.
Okay.
That was before it became Farm Service Agency. But he did that as his
Okay.
full-time job, and then he farmed on the side. And I have four brothers, and the five of us kept very busy on a cotton and wheat farm. And so I grew up always wanting to be involved in agriculture. Unfortunately, we didn't have any land in the family. This was all leased ground, and so the opportunities just really didn't present itself for me to actually be a farmer, so to speak. And so I decided I'd go to school and learn about it. And so during those 10, 11 years that I was on campus working and learning, and I just developed a love for agriculture. I developed a love for the industry, for the people that are involved in it, and I mean, really, that's what inspires me to get up and go. And as I get older, the getting up and going becomes a little more difficult. The travel schedule is, I used to be able to get up and drive clear across the state, and it wouldn't faze me. But that changes, and things in life change. We have new faculty hired that are contributing now with some of the research that we're doing, and additional collaborators. So it's kind of taken some of that load where we can shift things around, and but it also helps us do more, right? And so for a long time, cooperative extension, and you probably know this, cooperative extension was in a phase where we were not hiring individuals, and when individuals retired, those positions were not filled. And so we went through a time there during the, probably 2008 through, well, really the past, all the way up through about 2020,
Yeah.
where we weren't hiring people. And so all that work was being spread out over a very few number of people. But since we've had some opportunities to hire new individuals, we've got some great new scientists and specialists scattered across Arizona. And so that's allowing us to kind of multiply the things that we can do. We just need to be able to sustain it, right? We've got to be able
Right.
to, and as you probably know, Farm Bureau's been great, and I commend you all
Thank you.
very highly for what you guys are doing in terms of getting the word out about cooperative extension and some of the challenges that we're facing, with funding and state legislature funding. And I know there's efforts going on to secure funding to keep cooperative extension sustainable and going on in the state. So we really appreciate Farm Bureau's role. And the whole ag industry has been very supportive of moving these things forward.
It's our privilege and our honor, and a very there. It's a similar story to yours. Like, I have a farm background, and I actually even partnered with my parents through 2005. But once mom and dad wanted to retire, none of us wanted to take it over, and even
Yeah.
he kind of discouraged us from farming too. And he is very happy to admit that he doesn't.
Yeah.
But I wanted to stay in it like you did, and we found our way, didn't we, Randy?
Yep. Yeah, we did.
That's
And
so
just
cool.
as a side note, Julie, I remember this was back in the 90s when I was still in graduate school, but I remember working with your dad
Oh,
at the Maricopa Ag Center as
I'll
he worked
mention
there.
that to him.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
So
right.
Pat was there for many years. Laurel Levitt was there. I mean, there were a lot of people that we interacted with. This was, 30 years ago,
Yeah.
but they were very instrumental in supporting the ag industry during those years. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll mention that to Dad that you said hi.
Yeah.
The just for people that are listening or will listen to watch the video later, Dad was the demonstration
Yeah.
manager for Big Mac, as we used to call
Yeah.
it, but the Maricopa Agricultural Center in Maricopa, Arizona. And yeah, he's crossed paths with a lot of people, and it's even though he's been retired from the center for so long. That's what's so fun about it. Well, now I'm going to get specific again with this next question. Share
Okay.
one of your most, if possible, I know you have a lot of them probably, but is there one of your most memorable experiences in working with Extension and or with the farmers in your position that you like to highlight?
Yeah, specific individual. So, in preparation for this, and I reached out to our faculty and staff here in Graham County, and I might just share an experience that
Okay,
one of my faculty shared with me, just to highlight kind of
absolutely.
what's going on. So, Nate Brawley, who's our livestock agent, he also works in 4-H with Lori, and they have developed a great program with 4-H, and they're growing. They're getting more and more youth involved. They've developed a very robust large livestock program and small stock program, and have had very successful auctions and shows at the fair, and that just continues to grow, and they do a tremendous job. But Nate shared with me an experience where he worked with a young man who was really kind of struggling with his animal, right? And you can imagine,
Yeah,
working with large livestock can be difficult. But there were just certain things that Nate recalls doing with this young man in helping him kind of come along, and seeing the success that he had in the shows and the livestock auction. It's those kind of experiences where you see lives transformed, right? I mean, those
yeah,
are things, those are experiences that young man had that could change the trajectory of his life, right?
absolutely.
And so it's those touch points that we have with individuals that really make the experiences, makes all of the headaches that we deal with and the red tape that we deal with the university systems, which are significant. But it makes those are the moments that make it all worth it, right?
Yeah.
And so I mean, that was one experience that he shared with me. And and again, just seeing growers, from my perspective, seeing growers adopt technologies and moving forward with things that we have tested, that we have worked on, that you see it benefit them in their systems, improve their livelihoods, improve their farming operations. That's what makes it all worth it.
One thing you said earlier, I wanted to ask you a question about is that some of the experiments with crops that you do at the experiment center, so to speak, with the land that you have available,
Mhm.
you're dealing with it because you're doing the research. It's a little bit more high risk. Is it things like seed development?
Yeah.
What else are you
Sure.
doing
Yeah,
there?
so it varies from year to year, but year in and year out, we do a lot of variety testing, right?
Okay.
So a lot of the stuff that we do on the research centers are pre-commercial, what we call advanced strains varieties. So they're varieties that are probably 2 to 3 years out of commercial release.
Okay.
And so we're testing varieties that, quite frankly, are not necessarily adapted to our environment. That's how we figure it out, right? And so if I was to put that variety on a grower field in a 10-acre block, it might not turn out too well. And
Right.
so that type of research. The other thing that we do a lot of USDA regulated research. So, you look at some of the traits that we have in cotton now, like BT, right, that allows us to control lepidopteran pests. Those types of technologies that are being developed by companies like Bayer and BASF and Syngenta. I mean, they're working on all of these things. All of these, prior to commercial release, have to be tested, and they have to be vetted, and USDA has to sign off on it. EPA has to sign off on it. FDA has to sign off on it. All of those things, and that trialing and that testing has to be done in a controlled environment. And so every year I do a lot of what we call USDA regulated research, and we do that on experiment stations. because we really couldn't do that on a grower field. It would be difficult because it's crop destruct. It all has to be destroyed. It can't go into commerce. And so if I was to go to a grower and say, hey, I need a 10-acre plot and I'm going to destroy what we grow, they might not, unless there's a significant reimbursement, they might not want to. So it's that type of research that we do on
Yeah.
experiment stations that kind of feed the system in developing these new technologies that will eventually come to the growers.
And it's proof of the pudding, proof of the point that we need these research centers.
Exactly.
Because if you're testing, experimenting, advancing, trying to improve, and you need the available land, because in the case of crops, it's a plant. So, wow. And I don't think we think about that enough.
Yeah.
And like the Maricopa Ag Center, I remember Dad, again, he was more in charge of the demonstration farm, but
Right.
and that's how he got to know all the professors. In fact, they kept calling him Dr. Murphy, and Dad said, I don't have my PhD. But
I remember
they would
that.
come to they would come to him and ask, can we slice off some land from your demonstration farm? Well, because it belonged to the university anyway, there's no way Dad was going to say no. And he got to where he was having fun with some of the experimentation.
Yeah.
So he got into research, even though he didn't necessarily choose that. So, but it's so fascinating.
But you make a really good point there, Julie, with, I'm just one person, right? And I've got colleagues, in IPM. I mean, you take, for example, I think maybe, have you interviewed Peter yet? Peter Ellsworth?
Yes.
Maybe not.
Yes.
Oh yeah, you did. Yeah. I mean, just an example. I mean, Peter's got a tremendous program that's had a significant impact on the cotton industry in Arizona with IPM and beneficial insects. I mean, a lot of the stuff that he does could not be done on grower fields. It's got to be done under a controlled environment. And you look at the impact that program, just alone, that program has had on the cotton industry has been tremendous.
It's been amazing. And just for our listener, IPM is Integrated Pest Management.
Yeah.
I've been trying to write more about that because we still get these crazy media people that know nothing about farming, and they think by one or two interviews they're going to figure it out, and it just hits us with negative information. And one of the things that you alluded to, because you're doing some of this research for some of these major companies that are trying to come out with a next, effective pesticide. We now like to say crop protection, but at its core, it's a pesticide. And I love John Boltz's commentary on this. He says soft pesticides usually today, they're targeting just that one specific pest that we're trying to control because we're getting inundated by it. But the beneficials are not harmed.
Yeah.
And that's integrated pest management. It's part of, it's not all of it.
Sure.
It's part of integrated pest management. And some of these products take 12 to 13 years and nearly $400 million later to bring to market. And even then, EPA, FDA, USDA has the power to say, nope, we've decided and that all of the testing that goes into it to develop and see the impact on human health. Because if it's going to be risky to you and I, they're not going to allow it, nor should they.
Sure, right.
The risk to the environment, that's all part of the consideration, and hence why it takes 12 to 13 years for a new product to come on. So I'm glad you brought that up. But yes, Dr. Ellsworth's work in that integrated pest management arena has just been huge. And that's why, and Dad knows him as well, by the way.
Yeah.
And when I got connected with Dr. Ellsworth the first time after quite some time, he said, tell your dad hi. So there's this connection, and it's a special connection. And then knowing what extension specialists like yourselves are doing on behalf of not only the community, but agriculture. I cheer you on. I'm the cheerleader for the extension.
And we appreciate it. We appreciate all you do, Julie. I mean, you do a great job.
Well, thank you.
And Farm Bureau has had, and I've noticed just over the past, 5 years, maybe a little longer than that, but just the presence that you guys have, the positive presence in social media,
Thank you.
I mean, it's great. It's great. So I cheer you guys on as well. Keep up the good work. You know, but yeah, I mean, your comments about the pesticide use, I mean, that's such an important story to tell. You know, you look at pesticide use in the state of
Right.
Arizona and how it's changed over the past 10 to 15 years. I mean, you probably remember the years in the 90s when we were spraying to try to control pink bollworm, spraying to try to control whitefly, and fields were being sprayed 10 to 15 times a year with some pretty harsh chemicals.
Right.
That's basically gone away. I
Yeah,
mean, you
that
look at
doesn't exist
pesticide use
anymore.
in Arizona, it's less than a spray per acre per year.
Right.
It's the technology has revolutionized how we control pests in Arizona, and that's a story that needs to be told.
Yeah.
The public needs to know that's going on, and the technology has allowed that. And these chemistries that we use today are so much safer,
Mhm.
and as you said, softer on beneficials, to where you're not disrupting the ecosystem in your fields, and you're allowing those predators to do their work as
Mhm.
well. And so it's just, yeah, it's an exciting time to see these things happening, and the stuff that's coming down the pipeline, right? I mean, there's new technologies that are being developed that are gonna further enhance and make our systems more efficient. The question then becomes, can our growers afford them, right?
Right.
The production costs are just skyrocketing, and I feel for these growers. It's tough,
Yeah.
and particularly with 65-cent cotton for short staple and $1.20 or $1.30 for long staple.
Yeah.
It's tough, and $1.5 million for a cotton harvester.
I-
It's
Crazy.
it is tough. But so I see our role in extension and research is trying to develop tools and things that can help them be more efficient with everything they do, whether it's pest control, whether it's fertilizer, whether it's variety selection, plant growth regulators, all of that, to try to help them to become as efficient as possible to remain competitive in a very, very competitive environment.
Yes, very competitive. I'm not going to remember everything you said, but I remember one farmer not too long ago. He said, "We've had 65-cent cotton for decades." And he goes, "Most businesses can't survive when everything else is going up
Yeah,
in price, but you still, after decades, only
yeah,
get on average 65 cents for your cotton." And then just recently, we were interviewing a Midwest farmer. They're kind of verticalized their process. They're growing the cotton, they're harvesting it, and then they're subcontracting out with uh, groups of suppliers that are helping them make their own t-shirts, and
yeah,
they're also going to expand their apparel line. I wouldn't be surprised if a little bit more of that happens.
yeah.
And he said, and this was just recently on our Failure Now podcast, which, by the way, for those listening and will listen to this later, we have a weekly podcast that I host with Tammy Baker with the Arizona milk producers. And he was saying, think about it, a t-shirt really only needs about a pound of cotton.
Yeah.
Goes, and that pound of cotton I sold this year for 65 cents.
Yeah.
So if
Someone's
all
making
I,
some money somewhere.
yeah, so think about that $25
Yeah,
t-shirt that you bought. I only
yeah,
got 65 cents out of it if I just stay within the planting, harvesting, cotton producing
yeah,
arena. And so that's why he and his partner in this whole process are adding more to the supply chain. And I'm so proud of him. It's fifth gen cotton company out of Tennessee.
well,
And
yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah,
yeah, and there is also another company that grows their own cotton, and also, and they kind of do the bed sheets. I actually have a set of their bed sheets. So I'm going to try to hunt more of these people down, and maybe we can feature them more. But continue to cheer us on, because sometimes we feel like we're walking up,
yeah,
barely climbing up a very steep slope. We feel like we've gained, we're communicating more with the public, and then there's a landslide and we have to start all over again, just
yeah,
because so often, unfortunately, the legacy media will get it wrong.
yeah,
One of the reporters that was reporting on our pesticide use and got so much of it wrong, I reached out to him he spent an entire day with John Bolt's on John Bolt's, and I think at the end of the day he realized, oops. But one of the things that he confided in me is he had reached out to some of the farmers and other people in Yuma, and apparently nobody got back with him. And I said, well, you now know you need to connect with me, because my claim to fame, it may not be true, but I think certainly some of the extension specialists could probably claim the same thing. I probably know more farmers and ranchers in Arizona than most people. So I do try to connect so that the farmer's voice is spoken, and yet the farmer's voice oftentimes wants to be quiet because he's gotten frustrated with the media because they did misinterpret him. So we've got to kind of get over that hump in the process, and we're trying. So anyway,
let me just say along those lines, Julie, real quick. If there are opportunities, and if there's anything that we within Cooperative Extension or the U of A can do in terms of communicating with media, I'm more than happy to do that. And I know others of my colleagues are also willing to do that, to kind of set the story straight. Reach out to us as well. We'd be happy to help.
And I will let you know on certain issues I have, especially if there's a real science-based component to it. But I actually do need to do it more. So thank you for the offer. My last question to you is, I know you've got a lot of meetings today. It's Friday, but it's going to be a busy Friday for you. What can your shareholders, audiences, the community expect in the future from Graham County Extension?
Good question. Well, I think there will be a certain level of continuing to do what we do. I think, in my opinion, I think we're doing a great job, not to toot my own horn, but we've got great faculty and staff here that really do a good job. And so I think continuing with what we're doing, expanding some of the offerings. I talked to Nate a little bit the other day, and he's talking about doing some very targeted mini series type classes, where he'd like to get together with smaller groups of ranchers and producers, cattle producers, and look at specific topics for, herd improvement, some very specific things that he wants to do in a very targeted manner. Continuing on with the gardening program and additional cat classes, and expanding that offering. And as I mentioned before, the livestock handling facility there at the Safford Ag Center, with the expansion of the washing bays and things like that are going to provide additional opportunities for the 4-H kids to come and learn and use that facility. And in terms of my program and the row crops, we just continue to test and work with new technologies that are coming out, and trying to evaluate them the best we can to get the information in the hands of the growers, and trying to solve problems. We're right now dealing with some issues with a soil-based pathogen that we've been working with for 10, 15 years. We've seen some issues with control of that pathogen, where we've had very good control, and we're seeing some of it break down. And so we're targeting specific areas to try to evaluate why this is happening in the field. We've got laboratory data that shows that it's not a resistance issue by the pathogen, that the product that we're using is still highly effective against the pathogen, but we're seeing some breakthrough in the field that we're concerned about. And so we're putting together trials, and we're working with the industry, the manufacturer of this product, to look at specific trials to address these issues. So we try to stay as nimble as we can, and address issues that are emerging, topics that are emerging, to help our clientele the best we can.
And one thing I can definitely add to that, just knowing from my own experiences, Graham County Extension, Maricopa County Extension, all the county extensions, you're going to be there for us. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I remember 4-H. You guys are still there.
Yeah. Still there, still doing it. Different people, but still doing it.
Yeah. Well, Randy, this has been a fantastic interview.
Well, thank you.
I might circle back and may just have you, when I do the different series, and sometimes it's a commodity series. Well, if I bring on cotton again, I may have you in the mix. And I've done that before, where most of the people I've talked to were maybe my farmers or my ranchers, but I've brought in an extension agent or some other stakeholder slash expert within that field. And it's just, I love doing this. This is my passion
You
to
can tell.
create, well, thank you, create a platform for the stakeholders in Arizona agriculture and make sure our story's told, because if we don't tell our stories,
Yeah.
somebody else will, and they normally get it wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's something in extension that we do very poorly, unfortunately. We need to do a much better job of getting our story out and telling our story. But I mean, what you're doing obviously helps that a lot. But
Well, thank you.
uh, yeah, it's we just need to do a better job of telling our story.
Well, I can tell you, we upload these videos. We save it to Instagram so anybody can go at any time. I actually get, we may get a couple dozen. I think that's what happened today with the live.
Uh-huh.
But when I save it to Instagram, we're averaging about 500 views
Wow, that's great.
because we share it to story and stuff. But we're also uploading it to YouTube and then link it to azfb.org. So there's this going to be perpetual availability. And if somebody really wants to understand and learn about extension and meet the people that work in it, this is probably the best way to do it. I've been talking to Daniel Harris, who is in the government relations department here at Arizona Farm Bureau. And I said, once we get all of the extension interviews completed, I'm going to give you the link, because he oftentimes at the beginning of a legislative year will list out resources. I said, this is the resource for our legislators. And he said, I will absolutely do that. So
That's great.
yeah, there's an extended use of these videos. And thank you for your graciousness and the idea for us to just do the split screen. When I started doing these, I had a tendency to do more of the split screen, but then I still had so many farmers I wanted to talk to that don't even have an Instagram account. So thank you for suggesting that we do the split screen, because that saved us a few hours.
Sure.
And love going to Graham County, but this worked out really well.
Yep.
Bless you. Thank you. Merry Christmas to you and
Same
yours.
to you.
And
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you, Julie.
All right. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.